Baku speaking. Hello dear listeners, you are tuned into Azerbaijan International Radio. We are starting our English broadcast from the capital Baku. Welcome you to our analytic program. I'm your host Elçin Mirzayev. The Zangezur Corridor is of interest to major Eurasian powers. The Zangezur Corridor is of interest to major Eurasian powers. Azerbaijan's current military political superiority in the region creates new opportunities for the realization of the Zangezur Corridor. The corridor is not only of interest to regional states, but also to international political and economic centers. Therefore, Armenia's ability to obstruct the opening of the Zangezur Corridor is quite limited. In short, along with regional states, Eurasian countries are also determined to see the corridor become a reality. However, despite its responsibility in this matter, Armenia continues to manipulate the process. It should be noted that following its defeat in the Second Karabakh War, Armenia signed in November 10, 2020 a trilateral statement in which it committed to ensuring unhindered transit to Nakhchivan without any customs or border controls. International experts believe that if Europe and Asia can be connected via the Zangezur Corridor, the annual economic and trade turnover along this route could exceed hundreds of billions of dollars. In particular, due to trade route restrictions caused by the Russia-Ukraine war, the Zangezur Corridor could serve as a key alternative and hold strategic importance for both European and Asian nations. It is now an undeniable reality that the process for opening the Zangezur Corridor has been set in motion. In the near future, Armenia will likely have to accept this reality, notably after President Ilham Aliyev's meetings in Brussels and Prague. He repeatedly discussed this topic with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, further reinforcing the likelihood of the corridor's opening. Naturally, Armenia's indecisiveness in contrast to the firm stance of Azerbaijani and Turkish leaders is a result of Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan's political weakness. It's already known that Azerbaijan has completed over 70% of transport and logistics infrastructure for its segment of the Zangezur Corridor. The construction of both the railway line and highway is expected to be completed soon. The biased statement by United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Türk is a geopolitical maneuver aimed at discrediting Azerbaijan's successful policies. The United Nations, which claims to be engaged in the protection of human rights worldwide, recently saw its High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Türk calling for the release of individuals convicted of war crimes in a recent statement. At a time when the world is advocating for human rights, peace and reconciliation, it is strange that Turk appears to be promoting impunity and attempting to justify war crimes. His deliberate silence on the grave crimes committed by Armenia is paradoxical. For nearly 30 years, Azerbaijan's territories were occupied by Armenia. During this time, Azerbaijanis were expelled from their homeland and cities and villages were completely destroyed. Not only were Azerbaijanis forcibly displaced, but Armenia also targeted Azerbaijan's cultural heritage. Hundreds of mosques, cemeteries, and historical monuments were either destroyed or desecrated. Considering that Armenia's first president, Levon Ter-Petrosyan, openly supported a policy of ethnic cleansing to create a monoethnic Armenia, it is astonishing that United Nations officials continue to turn a blind eye to this reality. A clear example of Armenia's religious intolerance is the construction of a restaurant over the remains of an ancient mosque in Yerevan. However, Volker Türk ignores all these facts. He has never once called on Armenia to rectify the consequences of its occupation or restore the religious and cultural monuments it destroyed. He has never raised the issue of the rights of Azerbaijani refugees. He also remains silent on Armenia's use of landmines as a form of terrorism. Since the liberation of occupied territories, hundreds of Azerbaijani civilians have been killed or seriously injured due to landmines. Armenia continues to make excuses instead of fully handing over landmine maps. So, why has Volker Turk never condemned Armenia for these crimes? The answer is simple. Some actors use international law for political purposes. For them, human rights are merely a tool to serve specific interests. Volker Turk's biased stance clearly reveals whose interests he serves within the United Nations. This is not a genuine human rights issue. It is a geopolitical game aimed at undermining Azerbaijan's success. Azerbaijan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has strongly condemned this absurd statement, emphasizing that efforts toward peace must not overshadow the full reality. The ministry's spokesperson Aykan Hajizadeh stressed that the pursuit of justice requires accountability for those accused of war crimes, ethnic cleansing, military aggression, torture, and other grave crimes. To establish the truth, deliver justice to the victims, and ensure the rule of law, an impartial judicial investigation in accordance with international legal standards is essential. Only by speaking the truth and healing the wounds can peace and reconciliation triumph over impunity. Representatives of political parties, political scientists, and other experts visited the liberated territories. Representatives of political parties operating in Azerbaijan, political scientists, political commentators, as well as leaders of internet television channels, newspaper editors, and other journalists have visited Khankandi, Khojaly, and Asqaran. The participants of the visit first got acquainted with the Asqaran fortress complex and received detailed information about the complex. During the visit, they also closely examined the work being done at the Khojaly Genocide Memorial, which is being built in the city of Khojaly. The participants also had the opportunity to learn about the work done in the restoration of individual houses and infrastructure in the Balluja village of Khojaly. Later, the participants of the visit visited the Victory Square in Khankandi city, where a military parade dedicated to the third anniversary of the victory in the Patriotic War, which took place on November 8, 2023, was held. During the visit, Adalat Valiyev, head of the Department of Political Parties and Relations with Legislative Authorities of the Presidential Administration, provided information on the strategic importance of the solidarity environment that has been continuously promoted in the country by President Ilham Aliyev's initiative in recent years and the work done in this regard. He noted that the gathering of all the country's main political parties in one place at Victory Square in Khankandi should also be considered a significant event in Azerbaijan's political history. As was the case during the war, the main factor that unites patriotic forces is national interests and the position of statehood.